Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hey, I'm Steph. I am a writer and content marketer with creative director at an agency called GBG. We work with primarily B2B clients in the industrial and construction space. So lots of complex B2B subject matter, really meaty stuff to dig into. I'm also a really big nerd, so it's probably be awkward up here a little today. But thanks everyone for coming. I'm glad you guys all are as interested in ridiculous acronyms as I am, because I'm going to explain what QPF-MAGIC is today. But before we dig into that, has anyone read the book Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller? Yay! Familiar with the hero's journey? I'm just going to give a quick overview of what the hero's journey is, because it is a construct that really underlies all of literature, all of movies, and all of really successful marketing and advertising. We always have a main character in any story, and in business, that's our customer. They're the protagonist, they are the hero, and they're looking to make some sort of transformation, whether that's solving a problem, overcoming a challenge, whatever that might be. And understanding those problems and challenges is really the key to creating messaging that resonates with them. So I had this example up here from Star Wars. This is just a way of kind of illustrating the framework of the hero's journey that we use. So Star Wars, anyone seen it? Some people might have heard of it. Okay, so Luke Skywalker, he's the main character. So he's facing some problems. He's wondering, is he a Jedi? There's also this evil empire that's threatening everyone. And then he eventually meets a guide that's Yoda. So, and the guide that's us, that's the company who's serving the customer. So we are functioning as the guide who's going to give the main character a plan so they can make the transformation they're seeking and eventually have a happy ending. So this framework is something that we've been using for years in content marketing to tell stories, again, that resonate with people. And we were building our personas kind of based on this framework. However, I was having some challenges. So we work with some highly technical customers in the B2B space. And I've really been privileged to have been pushed by some of those customers and challenged on not only the content I was writing, but the strategies I was coming up with. I actually had one client in particular who's still a client, but I felt like for 2 years, like he hated everything I wrote and he was like, this is terrible. So I really had to figure out like, okay, well, why am I getting this feedback and how can I overcome some of this? So some things that I was just kind of thinking about swirling in my head that, first of all, it takes a lot of creative energy to come up with content topics to write about. And also, you really want to have confidence that you're writing about the right things, because I don't know about you guys, but not a lot of us have just tons of resources to write content just lying around waiting to be used. So the idea of wasting those resources on something that's not going to resonate it feels really risky. So the fact, it took a lot of creative energy. That was one thing. And being able to directly connect the content topics to the prospect's needs in order to make sure that it resonates as well. Like I said, we don't all have tons of content resources. So we really want to make sure that we're writing about the things that we know are going to resonate. So the slide that I showed before about the hero's journey, it felt like just defining the prospect's problems alone wasn't really giving me enough of a full picture to make recommendations with confidence to my clients. So was looking to solve that. I also needed a better tool to evaluate a client's existing assets. So we've worked with clients all the time that come in like they have nothing. So we're building from the ground up. That's almost easier than when a client comes in and let's say, or if you're on the brand side, if you already have a ton of assets, it's like, okay, well, where are the gaps? So you want to make sure that you have the lay of the land of everything that's in your content arsenal before you make it, before you put resources to creating new content. I also needed kind of a longer term roadmap. It just felt like trying to come up with topics on the fly, even like 12 months at a time of planning. I wanted to be able to paint a longer term picture, because we love to have long-term partnerships with our clients. And then finally, like I mentioned before, the story brand framework was feeling a little bit limiting. And I don't know if that's really the right term, but I wanted to zoom in on some aspects of it. I wanted to really get to know who our customers are, and also fundamentally understand not only their problems, but what fears do they have? You know, what myths might they believe that, or misunderstandings that we might need to educate on? So these were kind of the things that were swirling in my head. So what is QPF-MAGIC? What is this acronym that you all came to learn about today? So my colleague, Sam Casey, who's here today. What's up, Sam? So he sent me an article several months ago that had this acronym about called QPFF-MAGIC is how I said it. But it was about content creation in an increasingly zero-click world. You guys have all seen the way that the SERP is evolving on Google. So we're having more AI overviews. More people also ask. Really, the blue links aren't even appearing above the fold in a lot of cases. So how do we evolve in this world? Because AI is not going away, and we're going to embrace it and make it our best friend. So this article that Sam sent was by Chantal Smink, who's an SEO expert from the Netherlands. And Sam originally was like, oh, Steph, you're going to love this acronym because you like ridiculous things like this. But as I read the article, I just fell in love with the idea. So I was testing this out, using it in our personas. And then I was trying to say this acronym in a client meeting, and I could just see the sly smiles, knowing that there was a separate chat happening. Like, what is she saying? So I just had to rearrange it into a way that I could speak to it. So QPF-MAGIC stands for questions, problems, fears and frustrations, myths and misunderstandings, alternatives, goals, interests, and concerns. So we can break that down a little bit further. And you guys, I'll have a QR code at the end of this presentation so you can download the whole deck. So don't feel like you have to take photos of every slide. Because I know I love after conferences, you have like your whole camera roll as people's slides. Okay, so QPF-MAGIC defined. So questions, obviously, what questions do people ask before to give them confidence to buy something, obviously. Problems, we kind of cover that in the hero's journey. What's causing them pain? People are really more motivated to move away from pain than they are to go towards pleasure. There's psychological studies that have been done about that, and there's data to back it up. Alternatives, what else are they considering? And a lot of times that's not even a competitor. That could be doing nothing. It could be, it could be just a different solution, something else that you guys, don't offer. It could be if they're wanting an agency, it could be they're going to hire internally. It could be they're looking for a freelancer. So just really thinking outside the box in terms of what else is in that consideration set. Fears. What are they afraid is going to happen if they make a wrong decision? I think in B2B, this feels especially risky because your decisions affect other people in the organization. If I make a wrong decision about which pair of tennis shoes I'm going to buy, I'm the only one that suffers. But in B2B, a lot of times careers are at stake, so those fears are very real. Frustrations. What's something that makes them angry during the process? What are the friction points along the way? Their concerns. So what might happen if they do nothing, if they don't solve their problems? What's going to happen if those problems don't get solved? Goals is the transformation they're trying to make. How do they want tomorrow to look different, or 6 months down the road to look different than today does? Myths and misunderstandings. It could be, they might have been burned by one of your competitors and they think all companies in your space are the same way. It could just be misconceptions about the industry, the vertical, the type of solution you offer, et cetera. So these are things we need to educate on. Who doesn't love busting a myth? I love the show Mythbusters. So I think that's a great opportunity to educate. And then finally, what are they interested in? So, it could be, where do they go to learn? How do they like to consume content? So this could really help inform you on how to present your content to that audience. So that's QPF-MAGIC. So how do you get QPF magic for your audience. So there's tools that you need to bring together in order to do this. So the first one, a subject matter expert. So this could be, salespeople are great for this. Any salespeople in the room? Probably not. It's okay. But marketing and sales should be best friends. So grab the salesperson of your choice, take them out to lunch, and you can just interview them about, again, I'll give you an interview guide in just a second, but a salesperson is a great resource for you here. If you have a good relationship with one of your customers and they'd be willing to share a little bit about their buying process and how they came to you, they're a great resource too. Or just anyone in your organization who interfaces with customers often. So it could be customer service reps, account managers, etc. So bring your curiosity and your active questioning skills to this interview. I'll also give you an interview guide that you can use in order to guide the conversation when you're uncovering QPF magic for your prospects. And then finally, the AI partner of your choice. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we bring AI into the conversation soon. So the QPF Magic interview guide. So when it comes to questions, I think we always want to be answering what questions people are asking salespeople most often. So what's the first question they asked? What questions come out most often? What are the toughest questions to answer during the sales process? Where are people's objections? I think that's a great opportunity for content creation, is those objections. Their problems. So why did they reach out to us? What was the final straw for them? A lot of times it takes a lot of pain for customers to make a switch. We work with a lot of manufacturing companies where, it really has to be bad for somebody to make a switch. But we want to understand what that tipping point is, because that's what we want to use in our messaging to really resonate with people and make them feel heard. Alternatives, what competitors did they consider? If there were other types of solutions that they thought about. Their fears. A lot of times this can be uncovered by asking about guarantees and warranties. So if people are asking about that, they want to protect themselves in case something were to go wrong with their decision. Frustrations. What makes them angry about competitors or alternatives? And then where are the friction points during the onboarding process? So I think this is not only a great opportunity for content, but just operationally to uncover some different ways that you can smooth the path to becoming a customer. So concerns, what'll happen if they don't solve their problems? What's keeping them awake at night? Their goals, how do they hope things will be different? Maybe once they buy from you or once they solve your problem. Myths, so for salespeople, what do they have to spend the most time educating prospects on? I think is a great question to ask. Are there any terms that they're using, words that they're using that prospects don't understand? And then interests, what are their hobbies? How are they spending their time? And where do they go to learn about their industry? So once you've conducted this interview with the salesperson of your choice, I'm going to give you this framework for how we do personas to help you categorize this information in a way that's going to be just super useful and also really compatible with AI when we go to our actual content planning step. So for the QPF Magic persona example, first we like to start off with demographics, psychographics, motivation, and then their tech usage. So you could have AI create this. You could start with notes and then have AI flesh this out. But this just really kind of gives you that first chapter view of who our main character is, who we're trying to market toward. And then we get into the QPF magic. So we like to list out all the questions, problems, the QPF magic, like I'm saying. So if you list these out into slides, this gets you set up super well to then leverage AI to do your content planning. So how does QPF magic inform content strategy? So once you have all this stuff documented, how does it inform your content strategy? every QPF magic item, so every bullet point on this list should have a corresponding content asset. So I use the term content asset around the office a lot, and our sales team still, I'm working on trying to get them to adopt it because I think it's a little bit unclear. So I just want to take a quick left turn to define this. So a content asset is really any piece of content that achieves a specific goal. So it could be a blog article, it could be a website page, sales sheets, offline content counts here too. So sales collateral, product catalogs, also assessment tools and online calculators. If you guys have any sort of quiz or thing like that on your website, that's also a content asset. So each QPF magic item, each bullet point in that persona should have a corresponding content asset. So once you've outlined that, your two objectives. So number one is to satisfy every QPF magic need of your audience. And number two is to drive more inbound traffic through SEO. So, and you need to evaluate what exists and your gaps for both of those things. So I'll talk a little bit here in a second about how to map that out, how to identify the gaps, and then how to use AI and tools like SEMrush in order to have that support your SEO strategy. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to take your persona and all of the bullet points for your QPF magic on your persona need to go into bullet points, need to go into a spreadsheet. So each one having its own line, map that out to which area it corresponds to, and then go through your content library to find the best match piece of content for that item. So again, this could include both online content and offline content. So make sure you have your brochures, whatever you bring to a trade show, have that by your side so that you can start matching this up. Creating an inventory of your content assets is obviously critical for this step. A shortcut that you can use if you are using WordPress. Anybody WordPress users? Call hi. We love WordPress. So there is a shortcut to export all of your blog content from WordPress. I know we've worked with clients who have hundreds of blog posts, and the last thing I want to do is the spreadsheet and manually hyperlink them. So there is a plugin called WP All Import that you can use to export all posts from a WordPress website. And that can go into a spreadsheet, boom, 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 bada bing, bada boom, as my friend Nicole says. It's easy to do, and it saves a ton of time when you are collecting this library of content assets. If you're on a different CMS, you can look into tools like Zapier and things like that to make this process a little bit more painless. So just a little pro tip about creating your content inventory. Okay, so then you want to match your existing content to the QPF magic items in your sheet. Again, likely blog posts. It could also be website pages and sales enablement materials. And then you're going to have some gaps. So there's going to be some areas, QPF magic items, that don't have a best match. So this is where the magic happens. I think of MTV Cribs whenever this is where the magic of QPF magic comes in. And this is really what's going to give you the information you need to do your next, 12 months or even longer of content planning with confidence. So how do you bring AI into the equation? I think AI is amazing in speeding up ideation. It has really made the time I spend staring at a blank page shrink much, much more than it used to. And it helps get me to a place of having lots of ideas much faster. So it really solves that pain point of a lot of creative energy being used to come up with content topic ideas. It really helps solve that. So what you're going to need to take this into the AI. So first, your QPF magic items mapped to your best content. So that spreadsheet of each of those items from your persona, and then a link to whatever that content asset is that answers that question, solves that problem, educates on the myth, educates on the misunderstanding. You're also going to need your list of QPF-MAGIC items that don't have a best match, because that's what we're going to try to solve for when we're planning out our content strategy. And then finally, the AI tool of your choice. I use ChatGPT. We build custom GPTs that are specialized in different client subject matter. So that can also help, just a little bit of a tip to align it with whatever subject matter you're trying to hit. So step one, so copy the list of your QPF-MAGIC items without a best match, and then go to the AI partner of your choice, and you can use the following prompt. So when using AI, it's always best practice to tell it what role it's supposed to play. So act as a senior content strategist, so that way it's in the mindset of what it's supposed to achieve for you. And recommend blog topics or landing pages to address the following QPF-MAGIC for your persona name. This is also a good opportunity, if you've created your persona in those slides, to upload those slides also, so that it gets a sense of the demographics, psychographics, tech usage, etc., so that it can take that context into consideration for recommendations. Okay, and then you paste in the list of no best match topics to the end of the chat. And like I said before, upload your persona slide so that it's got that context. And then I have a 10-year-old son, and he really likes to say this a lot. I was going to give him a shout out. And then just let the AI cook. So it's amazing how quickly you can get tons of ideas when, I mean, it would have taken me hours to come up with, it would have taken me hours to do this. And I don't think I would have had as much confidence without this framework. So once you get, and you're going to have some output that isn't great. Like, we know that AI is not perfect. And that's where you as a human expert need to come in to tweak the topics, prioritize them, and then figure out which content you're going to produce. So, and that really gives you kind of your content plan. Once you've tweaked those topics, prioritize them, you've synced with your team. But there's one thing I haven't really talked about yet, and that's SEO. So where does SEO come into play? So I believe that QPF-MAGIC is enough to create content, even if there's no high volume, great keyword opportunity. I still think there's value in producing that piece of content, because even our tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs, they're not giving us a full picture of search. There's like 8 million unique searches every day, or new searches every day. The number is in the millions. And those tools are really focused on, they're created from the Google Ads data set. So those platforms are focused on informing you about keywords that sell ads, not necessarily the full picture of what everyone is searching. So you might type something into SEMrush trying to research a keyword, and it might say 0 search volume. That's really it's not necessarily the case. So don't feel like you have to have a specific keyword that has a ton of volume around it to necessitate creating a piece of content, because that's just really not true. One of our clients that's highly technical that we worked with, we were partnering with another SEO agency to working on their website, and they kept trying to steer us away from these super niche keywords that had like 10 searches, 10 monthly searches. And we're like, if there's 10 people searching for this, we really want those 10 people. So they kept trying to advise us like, no, go for more high volume, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, no, we really want those niche keywords. And that's what's going to get buyers who are more in the middle and bottom of the funnel into your atmosphere. People, can you hear me?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
QPF-MAGIC was where you did not have a match.
Mm-hmm.
Would it also be a good practice to employ the ChatGPT concise so you can find the articles people recommend?
Mm-hmm.
evaluate them and see, okay, this is all going. Then when you do the toll is to use, you have a winning match.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to cover that in just a second.
Okay.
Great question. Okay, because the QPF-MAGIC persona is super keyword rich already. So even if SEMrush is not giving you matches, it's super keyword rich. And you can easily layer in a keyword strategy or use this framework to discover new keywords. I think we have had a really hard time at our agency finding what keywords we're not already ranking for that we want to rank for. I just don't think that's a super easy thing to do, especially in a niche market. But we've kind of started to crack the code, and I'm going to share that with you guys here. So a couple of different ways so first you want to map your current keywords. So you want to know what is already existing, because you don't want to create new content for a keyword that you're already ranking for with another page, because that could confuse the search engine. So let's say I have a page about carburizing, and that's my keyword. I don't want to create another page that I'm optimizing for carburizing, because I want the traffic on Google that's coming from Google or Bing search to go to that main carburizing page, if that makes sense. So getting an idea of what everything is already ranking for is a good first step. So you can use a tool like SEMrush. You can go through, do an exact URL search for each one of your content assets and find which keywords that particular piece is ranking for. So, and this is a great way to give you ideas of how to better optimize that page for that keyword. Or it might show you like, oh, hey, I don't want this page showing up for that keyword. I need to optimize a different page for that. So that's just going to give you a good lay of the land in terms of what's ranking where. You can also export all your keywords into a single sheet. If you're using SEMrush, that's our tool of choice at GBG. And then you can sort the sheet by URL, and then you can easily just kind of copy and paste that over into a different sheet to see which keywords are ranking for which content asset. As for optimizing pages in 2025, again, I spoke to prevalence. First one is to add keywords into headers. So this is a good signal to the search engine that your page has relevance for 3 keywords per page. And there's only that practice. One is so something you can say easy to scan. So content that's show up and yeah. You probably another reason Q&A that is also really seeing articles rank like crazy. Answer people also questions. So like my friend over here was asking, should you Google those QPF-MAGIC items? Yes, you should. And take note of what comes up in that people also ask section. Because those are, and then use those, like if you're writing a blog post, you've got some headers that you want to incorporate into your content. So those are great ways to start having your content appear above the fold, above the blue links in the search, and a better chance of visibility amongst your audiences. And then optimizing your meta titles and meta descriptions. This isn't going to help your pages rank, but it will help click-through rate. So just, again, it's a little thing, but I do think it makes a difference to have a compelling meta description to entice somebody to click, and also a meta title that contains your keyword and, again, entices them to click. Okay, so some tips for developing a keyword strategy. So finding those keywords that you're not already ranking for. Compare your domain with your main competitors in a tool like SEMrush. So in SEMrush, you can run a competitor gap analysis where you paste in your URL and competitor URLs, and that'll generate a big list of keywords for you. And then there's a tab called untapped keywords. So that is keywords that your competitors are ranking for that your domain is not ranking for. So that's a great list to export. And then you can use AI and your QPF-MAGIC persona to narrow down that list. So you can paste that into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me, based on my persona, based on these QPF-MAGIC items I'm trying to write for, prioritize this keyword list and narrow it down to the top 100. So that's because sometimes these untapped keywords, there will be 6,000 keywords in that search, and a lot of them are garbage. So using AI as your partner to help you kind of cull that list down is something that's going to save a ton of time. And then finally, developing new content for the keywords that you want to rank for. Or you can optimize your current content. There's probably pages on your site that match up well with keywords you're not ranking for that you can optimize according to the tips I showed you just a minute ago. So that's what I got. QR code for my slides, and I would love if anybody has questions. Yes.
So I just wanted to understand what you're talking about. You're working from a market perspective. You've got a client who is a subject matter expert. You're interviewing that subject matter expert. And are you asking them about their hero journey, or are you asking them about their prospective customers? Is that what you're trying to put together?
Yes. Whoever we're marketing to, it's their hero's journey. So if I'm an agency, working with a client, I'm interviewing them about their customer so that I can write compelling content for them to sell to their customer.
Or feel like they don't understand their customers, or like they're like, I know sometimes.
Never.
Well, when women, sometimes just a real obvious thing is sometimes they'll throw out industry jargon,
And then,
that the customer is not Googling.
Okay.
Do you know?
yeah.
How does that fall into creating this journey?
Yeah, I think that's something that we try to be aware of. And when we're doing those interviews, we like, for example, we were working with a SaaS company that's like, yeah, we work with value resellers. It's like, well, do they call themselves that? What do they call themselves? What do they consider themselves? So we do try to delve into and ask some of those questions. We are also, when we're doing our keyword research, we're looking for those things that come up too. This is tangentially related, but we were trying to do a campaign about agricultural seed boxes. And there's actually, people don't call them seed boxes. There's like a million different terms that they call them. And we uncovered that by doing that keyword research. There's also some like tech product called seed boxes. Who knew? But yeah, things like that. We do try to discover on the way a blend of knowing to ask those questions around the jargon, but also doing keyword research and bringing those things up proactively. Thanks. Somebody else? Yeah. The traffic, because if we're using our Google Analytics, we're using so that those articles are getting traffic, because we're also driving traffic through things like social campaigns, internal linking across the site. I do think it is a little bit of a stretch to get them to believe in it when you can't show like, hey, it's going to rank for this SEO keyword. But I think that if you align it well enough with their prospects' needs, and also their needs too. They're like, oh man, we need a piece of content that explains this. I find that really helps too. Thanks.
Good. That a technical question. Can you, like, whenever you're taking your spreadsheet and putting it into chat, like, will it read a spreadsheet, or is there a certain format that you have?
I think so. Sometimes I've actually been like just pasting the text into the chat because I think that its ability to read spreadsheets is somewhat limited. So if I really want an output that's well aligned, I will actually just copy the list over and just paste that to the chat window.
I just wanted to add that like spreadsheet management is one of my favorite uses for chat in SEO because you can tell it, give me my data in a 2-column format, and I don't have any copy and paste errors.
Yes.
It saves me a lot of time and headaches and fixing them.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
The questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.